Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are making a pumpkin pie scroll with a cream cheese maple frosting. Now you'll have to excuse me, this one is a little bit disorganized even compared to me normally trying to follow a recipe because I lost my original and I'm making it up as I go along. We're going to start with a cup of butter. I've just cubed that up and let it warm up to room temperature. And next we're going to add in a quarter cup of white sugar. Now we are just going to mix that up just to get those two going together. Okay, that's those two going, and next we're going to throw in a half cup of pumpkin. Now I roasted this pumpkin and then just mashed it up with a fork. I find it tends to be a bit sweeter that way, a bit nicer in the flavour, rather than just boiling it and mashing it or steaming it and mashing it. Okay, we're also adding in 2 eggs at this stage. Now, eggs, pumpkin, and the sugar mix will certainly curdle up. So, and don't stress about that overly. You try and give it a good beating to get it out, but yeah, it will curdle up a bit. We're also going to add in about a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a quarter cup of milk. And watch the camera overhead. All right, back on we go, and just whip that all together just to try and bring it together so it's not too curdled. And of course, while it's mixing up, we'll just clean up a little bit. Okay, there it is whisked up, so we'll take the whisk off, just clean it off. And next up we're gonna add the flour in. So we're gonna add about 2.5 cups of flour at this stage. I'm keeping a cup in reserve because when you're working with a pumpkin mix or something like that, then it's hard to know exactly how much you need. A little pinch of salt just helps to bring the flavor out in everything. And 2 teaspoons of yeast. Mine's a little old, so I've added a 1/3 teaspoon. On with the dough hook and off we mix. Now I'm just watching it as it goes along. It seems a bit loose, so adding in a quarter cup there. It's one of those things with doughs, you just want to keep an eye on it and just sort of make sure you're getting to the right texture. Okay, another quarter cup of flour. So we're up to 3 cups now. Still a little soft, so another quarter yet again. So that's 3 1/4 total that I've used. And now that dough's coming together. Okay, ready to come out. So just move the mixer aside. Give the bench a good wipe down. Little sprinkle of flour. And on we go with the dough. a little bit over the top, and just give it 3 to 5 minutes of kneading from there. Okay, we've finished our kneading and we're just going to form it in a ball. I'm going to grab a bowl. You just want to spray the bowl with your oil of choice. In this case I'm using canola. So a bit of a spray in the bowl, a bit of a spray on top. Cover it with Glad wrap and take it away to a nice proofing area. Okay, we are proof, so a little bit of sprinkle of flour over the bench. A little bit of sprinkle of flour on the roller just to stop it sticking there. Okay, and there we go. You can see that's more than double in size. Now a lovely big ball of dough, and we're just going to roll it out into a large rectangular shape, working around a camera tripod, a mixer on the bench, and all sorts of fun things. But hey, you do what you got to. And onto the filling. We have half a cup of melted butter. We have 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar and a tablespoon of maple syrup, half teaspoon of cinnamon, half teaspoon of nutmeg, and I had 3/4 of a cup of left of pumpkin, so that went in there as well. Now we just want to mix all of that together. Again, we're going to get a little bit of curdling because of the pumpkin and the sugar mix, but that's all good. Scrape the sides down and give another mix up. Alright, there we go. Clean off the whisk. Okay, grab the bowl off, grab a spatula and scrape it all out onto the dough. And then just spread it out. You want to try and leave the very edge of it so there's a bit of pastry on pastry action instead of having the filling too far out at the edge. So I'm just looking for a nice, neat, sort of even coverage. Okay, next up we're going to grab it at the top and roll it down. And the tricky part is to keep it nice and tight as you roll it. So you want to push it under at the same time as you're pulling it down. Yeah, bit of push it under. Just trying to shape it up a bit. Alright, pastry knife. And just cutting it into 1.5" size pieces. Okay, on a lined baking tray, I'm going to stick them on there and I'm going to roughly shape them up as I put them on, but I will go back and reshape them a bit as I go and reposition them. First of all, I just want to get them on there so I can clean up the bench and get everything positioned properly. Alright, clean bench, come back on with the tray. And as I said, I'm just neatening up where they're sitting, the shape of them, that sort of thing, trying to make them as round as possible. There's a fair bit of filling in these and it is a gooey filling, so it is tricky to try and get them nice and tight. Now for this proofing stage before they go in the oven, because my house is a bit cold in the middle of winter, I'm using a microwavable heating pad. Just lay it underneath and put the tray on top, and that'll help me to get to proof without having to stress about it too much. Just a light layer of cling film over the top and leave it sit to proof. Okay, they're finished proofing and you can see how they've increased in size. Got a nice rise out of them, so they're heading across the oven, and that is at 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to have them in there for roughly about 20-25 minutes. Just keep an eye on them. Once they're golden brown, pull them out. Okay, and while they're in the oven, we're going to work on the frosting. As I said, it is going to be a cream cheese frosting with maple syrup in it. So I've used a block of cream cheese. It's made a lot of frosting, so you could probably knock that down to about half a block. We have half a cup of butter. Both of those are softened at room temperature. Not too soft for me because it is pretty cold in the house at the moment in the middle of winter. Okay, next I'm adding in a cup and a half of icing sugar and 3 good tablespoons of the maple syrup, or imitation maple syrup if you live in Australia. On with the whisking attachment. We're just going to start at a slow speed because that powdered sugar is just going to blow everywhere if you go in there fast. Now with a frosting or an icing, I always add in lots of sugar later. I add the minimum amount of sugar and just sort of start with a liquid and try and get the lumps out. And then as I'm going, I just add in more sugar along the way. So started with a cup and a half. Okay, part the way along, we're just going to lift up the whisk, use the spatula, bring everything in from the side. Get all that goodness off the spatula and back on with the mixing. Okay, now we're adding in another full cup of the icing sugar, so that takes us to 2.5 cups. And another scrape down. And while we've got the mixer lifted, we're just going to add in another cup at this stage. So that takes us to 3.5 cups. And another scrape down. Because it's not, as I said, it's middle of winter, so it's pretty cool in my house, and the cream cheese didn't soften as much as I would have liked. So I continually have to scrape it down just to sort of get those chunks back in there underneath the whisk. And we're finally mixed to the point where I'd like it mixed. So just raise it up. Yep, looks good. And just push it out of the way and go and get the scrolls out of the oven. Now, how good do these look? They are fantastic. I'm just going to let them cool down a bit. You want to serve them hot, but let them cool down just a wee touch so you don't burn your mouth. And there's the finished product. Pumpkin spice scroll with maple cream cheese icing. And of course, with anything I make, it needs a taste test. And it's absolutely delicious. Now, thank you very much everyone for joining me. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell notification so you get notified when I've got more videos come up, whether they be recipes or working out in the forge. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much, and bye for now.